That should kick in over there. It did. All right, a minute here. What am I going to do? I'm going to do this. That's recording.
I thought we were the protectors of truth. Democrats, Republicans, you all lie. We, a small band of survivors, are on our way to the Steel City to find the resistance. Join us.
Welcome to the Steel City Resistance with Senior Airman Ward Miller and the ironclad voice of Pittsburgh, Hutch Jr., laying down verbal C4 to blow away the lies and the political tomfoolery. Your papers have been cleared. Welcome to the Steel City Resistance.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Steel City Resistance. My name is Hutch Jr., and I'm located in the city of Pittsburgh, deep down in the bunker, and this is episode 85.
And I'm Ward Miller, also in the city of Pittsburgh here in Mission Control. This week was just slam-packed with news, and we say it every week, and this week I think we really mean it. We're going to we're going to have a hard time making it through all the stories, but we're going to give it the old college try.
It was just an incredible week. It really was. There was so many things going on before we even get to the meat and potatoes. I think the opening dialogue is going to end up being the meat and potatoes. I don't know. It was a truly horrible week in one way. I don't know about you, Ward, but I've been watching this all my life, ever since I've been paying attention to politics. And sometimes I just think, and I don't know if you and I haven't spoken, so I don't know. You may totally disagree with me, which is fine. But sometimes I think that the GOP is just suicidal. I mean, I've watched this so many times. We have people in government right now, and people who aren't in government anymore, but still kind of are, like Bill Clinton, that have committed so many different crimes and just done things that are so despicable. This guy down in, I don't even know what state he's from, Aikens. Yeah,
he's from Missouri.
Missouri, that's right. Aikens said some stupid things. He truly did. I mean, if you dissect everything that he did say objectively, which we didn't, you can kind of see where he was led astray by an article we read. But beside the point, I don't really care what he said. Within 3 or 4 hours, our party descended on this guy like just cannibals.
I understand what you're saying there, Hutch. The problem is what he said was totally ridiculous and extremely stupid. And I don't really think that they descended on him. They more or less said, look, you really stepped in it, dude. And everybody was saying, look, the GOP pulled their funding of this guy. It's one of them things where he, do the right thing and just step down.
Well, my problem with it was how public it was. If you want to do that, if you want to be a serious person and you think that saying something as stupid as that is grounds for being removed, I think we played right into the media's wheelhouse. I mean, they took that line, legitimate rape, and turned it around to mean something that he wasn't even saying. I mean, he was talking about people that claim rape when it's not rape.
Yeah,
and a legitimate rape.
He never clarified his position, and I understand that. My thing is,
first of all, let me say I'm not standing up for this guy. That's not my point here at all.
No. What I think is, we basically stepped into it and gave the liberal media something to talk about. It gave them a nice distraction so that they didn't have to talk about the fact that, Paul Ryan has an actual plan. Paul Ryan's plans have actually gotten votes in the Senate and in the House, whereas Obama's budget has never passed and has never gotten a vote. The last two budgets he proposed got 0 votes. So they can't talk about his record. They can't talk about the economy. They don't want to, they don't want to do anything that will bash the Messiah. So when this Akins guy comes out and says something stupid, it gets all the cycles because they have nothing else to talk about.
Absolutely. And I mean, if these guys seriously wanted him out, then they should have emailed him or they should have called him on the phone. These guys could not wait. They couldn't wait to be the next guy on the bandwagon. And we've done it numerous times. This isn't the only time.
I think part of it, too, is when they do that, they're trying to show that they distance themselves from his insanity.
They're trying to get Democrats to approve of them, and they're trying to get the press to approve of them, and we've been doing that forever.
Like I said, I really don't agree with what he said.
I don't either.
And whether, the context or, however, what he said was stupid. And,
Period.
Instead of saying, look, what he said was stupid and let's move on, the fact that the Republicans are jumping in and they're bashing this guy, all that does is gives the media something to talk about. Well, look, Sarah Palin said that this guy's a jackass and needs to go, and
I could see Romney. I could see Romney doing it, but the 30 other guys that did it, and we're pushing each other out of the way so they could get in front of the camera. That's got to stop. That really does. That just infuriated me to no end and made me want to defend the guy.
Well, the thing is, like I said, though, I mean, all it is the media would have taken anybody. I could have probably gone down and, to the local liberal media and said, look, I think Akins was an idiot. And they would have put me on the news. They have nothing to report that will make their candidate look any better. So any chance that they have to bash a Republican candidate, they're going to take it. And then when you got Republicans that are piling on, they're just going to report that. And, there's problems within the GOP, and the GOP can't get their, ducks in a row and da-da-da-da. I understand that. But my thinking is they should never they shouldn't have said anything publicly. There should have been something privately.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's time to go because that was the dumbest.
But it was a circus. It really was. And I'm not. Rush Limbaugh put it best. Rush Limbaugh said, "Democrats circle the wagons, Republicans circle the firing squad." And he's absolutely right. We've done it time and time again. And again, my feelings aren't about Akins. They're about the other knuckleheads that are so quick to abandon one of their people on the battlefield that it's embarrassing. To me.
Well, it's the same thing as what happened, back when we were reporting on Wiener, and Wienergate and all that other stuff. The Republicans, and you're exactly right. The Republicans have no compunction about putting anybody on the firing squad, whether it's Republican or Democrat. It's almost like this show where they call a pig a pig. If you're doing something wrong, they're going to call you out.
And I understand that part, but the thing about it is that we were in such an important. If this was another election cycle, I probably wouldn't care as much.
No, and I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think that this was a distraction technique used by the media so that they don't have to report on the failure of the Obama administration. But at the same time, the Republicans are the ones that come out and go, okay, you screwed the pooch. It's time for you to go. They did it with Wiener, even though he was a Democrat. They're doing the same thing with Aiken, even though he's a Republican. It doesn't matter which side of the house you're playing on. It's you do something stupid, you got to go.
Yeah, and I
and
I think that, to me, now that the dust is settled and the guy's still in the race, to give that seat away because he said something stupid, to not fund him or anything like that, I mean, all right, let's give the seat away then, because that's what's going to happen.
I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a Tea Party candidate that comes out of nowhere and ends up winning.
Well, it's possible, no doubt.
Because Missouri's a red state. Missouri's always been a red state. They're going to have a Republican in there. They'll just have to run another Republican, and they'll fund the other Republican, and he'll win.
We'll see what happens, but I'd like to just offer some advice out there. Don't be so quick to shoot your own guy. I mean, if he's right, if he's wrong, he's wrong. But be professional, Go to the guy's office or call him on the phone or something. You look like idiots coming in front of the media that are just salivating to get your every word. I mean,
well, they're like I said before, they're searching for national news, and anything that can be national news that won't be disparaging on the Messiah will cause them to immediately, jump on it. And here's a Republican who said something stupid. It's not like he was, shacking up with little boys or anything, but
right.
he said something stupid.
Or it wasn't like he was accused of rape 3 times like a former president, or it wasn't like he let a girl drown in his car at Chappaquiddick. It wasn't anything like that they still circled the wagons on.
Oh, yeah. Well, hell, you want to talk about Slick Willie. Slick Willie, went out and got into, he was convicted of perjury and nothing. You never hear anything about it.
He's the elder statesman of the Democrat Party. Really? I mean,
no, actually, I think Jimmy Carter is. Jimmy Carter's the oldest living Democratic
yeah,
president.
but you see who can still pack them in.
Oh, yeah. Everybody goes to see Bill, and they're mostly women.
I think he looks like a crackhead
I
myself.
could be the next Monica.
He looks like a crackhead to me. I mean, he must weigh about 100 pounds. Anyway, I have that's enough on Aikens. I got one story in the pile that I'm going to get a guy's George Neumeyer's perspective on it, and it doesn't mirror my opinion, but it's close. But I think I've been watching things, NBC and different news outlets, and I think that the media is going to be bankrupt within 5 years. I think the old media as we know it, I think people like Glenn Beck have been setting up networks to just be prepared. I think you're going to see some of the people in the media are going to survive, like Anderson Cooper. I don't know if you got a chance to see the interview with Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, but Anderson Cooper, he sounded like a little Thurston Howellish, but he did call her out. Guys like that'll survive. But I think the media market share is just so bad. I mean,
well, the thing is, Anderson Cooper came from CNN, and I'm sure that Blabbermouth figured that she was getting a compassionate ear. And, I think that he's one of the guys that sees the writing on the wall and says, hey, maybe that's not what we should be talking about. Maybe we should be, being acting more like journalists and less like cheerleaders.
And save the company, maybe.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's what they are. This current mainstream media is nothing but cheerleaders for the far left progressive movement.
Yep, absolutely.
And anybody that thinks any different's an idiot.
You're pretty right there. I mean, when I looked onto a story on the Drudge Report, I think it was on Real Clear Politics, and it was something along the lines of why the GOP are barbarians or something like that. And I'm reading it, and I'm reading the comments. And there was a lot of them. And these people are clueless. They do not have a clue what is happening to them. I mean, Obama looks at the liberals and chuckles because he's talking about when he says tax the rich, from Obama's mindset, that means every single American
that has a job.
Every single American is rich and the rest of the world is poor. This guy, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but I think the media will be dead in 5 years. I think the market's going to work. I really do. There's no credibility there at all. And the people that consider themselves or call themselves liberal is about 22%. The only reason they're even close anywhere is because of the media. And I think that's going to change. I do. I think that we're living in historic times, Ward, and I've heard that before, but I really feel it. Ever since FDR figured out that he could buy votes, the progressive era kicked into high gear. From then all the way to now, Republicans too. And I think that we are going to witness with this election the end of the progressive era. It might take a couple more cycles to totally purge Congress of progressive Republicans, but I think that it's going to happen. I really do. And I think it's going to be because of people like us. Not necessarily you and I, but people like us.
I like to think it's us.
It probably is. Yeah. We do need a holiday. Anyway, a really phenomenal thing happened this week, and I think you were posting that you were on vacation or something this weekend. I don't know deep into social media you got. But something phenomenal happened on Twitter. There was an NBC Wall Street Journal poll that was breaking down demographics and support for Obama and Romney. And this poll came out and said that Romney had, I forget how many percent Obama supporters, had like 95% of black voters supported Obama, and made the terrible error in a propagandist way of saying Romney had 0% support from the black community, from black voters. And a hashtag was born on Twitter. The hashtag Black Conservatives for Romney showed up and went nuts. It trended third worldwide, or nationwide, I think. But
no, Twitter's worldwide.
I don't know the trending. I don't look at the trending that much. I just heard somebody post that. I read it. And I've even, I don't want to say met, but I connected with some of these people using this hashtag. And one of them is News Ninja 2012, and you can find his website in our SCR recommends on the webpage, steelcityresistance.wordpress.com. But this guy comes out and makes videos. He's a soldier. I mean, it's a black guy that's conservative that's telling everybody. You know, I mean, it's we need more of that. And there was no shortage of them on Twitter, on my Twitter feed. It was really enlightening and lifting and everything.
Well, the thing is, the media wants to make it that, you know, because Barack Obama's a black guy, that all the black guys are going to vote for the black guy. And that's not necessarily true because, I mean, Herman Cain was a black guy. You know, and it's not a white versus black thing at all.
And we've spoken about it. We've spoken about it many times on the program. I mean,
no, it's not a white versus black.
They're
thing.
the biggest victims.
Yeah, it's a right versus wrong thing.
Yeah.
And you know, if you are trying to cast your vote for the president of the United States, it comes down to a simple question: who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah.
It's not a matter of who has the best personality, who's the nicest guy, who's the whatever. No, it's who's right, who's wrong.
Who strapped the dog on the car, or, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's all. You know, that's more that bullshit FUD that comes out with all the once again the media is grasping for something to publish.
Certainly. But it's that was just a good thing. Check out that hashtag, and there is hope for America, ladies and gentlemen. That really made me feel good seeing that word. It did. Because of anybody in the country who should be conservative, it's the black community. Yeah. I mean, really, you're getting stomped by Obama and Pelosi and every other Democrat. You know, so good luck and good work, people. Good work. Now, there's some other good news coming from the Republican National Convention. It seems that they have adopted an anti-Sharia law plank in the platform. Actually, there's a lot of good things that they're putting in the platform. But an actual anti-Sharia law plank was inserted in it when they had their meeting last week.
Outstanding.
That is good. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. Unfortunately, Monday's opening of the convention has been postponed until Tuesday due to Hurricane Isaac. And they're saying that could match the intensity of Katrina. So be careful down there, folks.
Yeah. Anytime a hurricane comes blowing in, there's always the chance that it's going to be, bad news. The only good thing, if there is a good thing about it, is the folks in Florida are used to it. They know how to prepare for it. It's not anything new to them. It's not, well, do you think we ought to? No, they have a hurricane plan, and when they say there's a hurricane approaching, they go into gear and they do what they need to do. And, I hope that God watches over, the people in Florida, because I've lived through a hurricane, and it's not a pleasant thing in any way, shape, or form. And it's quite possibly the scariest thing that you would ever go through. And these people in Florida do it, yearly almost. So, our thoughts and prayers are with them.
Absolutely.
And, hopefully, Isaac will lose a little bit of strength and just be a big storm.
Yep, hope so. There is no jihad report. It was not published this week. So what we're going to do is, I rarely find a political song that I like, but I did find one, and I think we're going to try to share it with you here. So let's see if this works. It should. I don't know. We're going to find out, though.
Approaching Plain Station, Pope and Change Street. Hey, Mr. President, can you tell me just what happened? 'Cause you made so many promises, now it seems you were just yapping. What happened to Guantanamo? What happened to the jobs? What happened to transparency? It's still as thick as fog. Did you really believe it? You could get us off the ground. Come on, you didn't mean it. You could spread the wealth around. We couldn't read the bills. They had to pass them in a hurry. It must be nice to know that you don't have to worry. Could you blame it on Bush, blame it on Fox, blame it on Twitter and the right-wing blogs, blame it on tax breaks, blame it on earthquakes, blame it on Wall Street, what about Kalisha? Blame it on the rich, blame it on the poor, yeah, blame cream puffs and Michael Moore. Yeah, but it's sounding all the same. What are we supposed to do when the one you never blame is you? It's you. It's you. It's you. Hey, Mr. President, I hate to break it to ya, but defending Eric Holder will sink you fast and furious. You can hide behind the nonsense that you protect the middle class, but to blame it all on millionaires will bite you in the ass. Did you really believe it? That Solyndra was a gem? Come on, you didn't mean it. When you blamed the ATMs, you can't believe the Tea Party doesn't see you as the Messiah. You should have thought of that when you prayed with Jeremiah. So you blame it on Bush, blame it on Fox, blame it on Twitter and the right-wing blogs, blame it on tax breaks, blame it on earthquakes, blame it on Wall Street, what about Kalisha? Blame it on the rich, blame it on the poor, yeah, blame cream puffs from Michael Moore. But it's sounding all the same. What are we supposed to do? 'Cause the one you'll never blame is you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you can watch that music video on the website. And I don't know, I just thought that was a pretty good song.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The guy sounds a lot like Bob Dylan, which kind of gives it that, 60-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I liked
the
it.
60s kind of, but it's poppy. It's pretty cool.
It is. And just one more quick little blurb here on Aiken, and then we'll get back to the rest of the news. But Aiken made a stupid remark, but the hysterical reaction to it was even stupider. Todd Aiken is a man unfit for the U.S. Senate. All sides seem to agree this week, whipping themselves up into a sanctimonious fury over his foolish aside about female biology. We heard this week a lot about insensitivity to violence from establishment elites who blithely accept violence in the womb. We heard gasps about dangerously narrow definitions of rape from defenders of Bill Clinton, who surely appreciated Aiken's legitimate distinction if no one else did. And from apologists for Roman Polanski, who, as Whoopi Goldberg once asserted, never engaged in rape. And let's not forget that Barack Obama hired as one of his top Department of Education officials a gay rights activist named Kevin Jennings, who once glibly counseled a 15-year-old student thought to have been statutorily raped by an older man. I hope you knew how to use a condom. Jennings is also known for having been inspired by Harry Hay, a supporter of the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Don't expect Obama to receive any questions from the press about these views of his first safe school czar. No, outrage in this culture is restricted to those deemed unenlightened in the nuances of avant-garde morality. According to its poorest scorecard, Christianity is bad for women while Islam is good for them. Pro-life countries receive scoldings from Hillary Clinton, while the one-child policy of China, which kills female infants, isn't second-guessed by this administration, as Joe Biden put it on a visit. In a culture that panders to pro-abortion feminists like Sandra Fluke, thought crimes always rank higher than real ones. Words, not deeds, drive Pauls from public life, so Aiken has to go. He simply harbors the wrong thoughts, and no apology will be sufficient from him until he changes his position on abortion. Beneath all the hysterical extrapolations from his remark, which grew wilder and wilder as the days passed, lay that essential demand: approve of killing unborn children conceived under circumstances of rape or be deemed anti-woman. This culture of hectoring explains why Mitt Romney rushed to the cameras upon hearing Aiken's remark to pronounce abortion in those cases appropriate. In a rotten culture, proof of one's civilized bona fides comes from such shameless pandering. An authentic conservative party would find Romney's unprincipled position far more chilling than Aiken's gaffe. If unborn children gain or lose their right to life depending upon the circumstances of their conception, then the party has already conceded that that right doesn't exist. Ronald Reagan understood the implications of that concession and never wavered in his defense of the right to life of all unborn children, not just some of them. Instead of rejecting this media-determined culture of empty and opportunistic outrage, which rests on nothing more than poisonous Planned Parenthood-style propaganda, panicky GOP officials reinforced it this week by treating Aiken as a monstrous leper. His stupid remark was thereby turned into a supposedly wicked one and treated as a great crisis for the party. Anyway, it goes on, and I don't agree with all of that, but I certainly saw it the same way. And I was kind of surprised that I was very much in the minority in that position, but it hit me wrong. The way that I swear I must have, every time I turned some media on, it was a new guy piling on, and it was just like, geez, oh man, why don't you just shoot the guy, you know?
Well, here's the thing, and they continue to bring this up during every political or every presidential campaign. Back when it was Bush, when it was McCain and Obama, when it was, as long as I can remember, since I've been following politics, it always comes up as what's the president's stance on abortion?
Oh yeah,
and my answer is who gives a damn?
Right. The thing about it is, and this is directed at our young listeners and viewers, those of you that this is maybe your first presidential campaign or maybe your second, but I've already seen the ad. I didn't play it, but I know of its existence. And I just want you to know that when the ad comes on that says Republicans are going to send women back to the back alley for abortions, I just want you to know that ad has been playing for 30 years. There is nothing new about that ad. It gets played every presidential year when there's a pro-life candidate involved. And I'm sure you can attest to that, Ward. It's the same goddamn thing every year.
Yeah, but my point is, it's not a presidential thing. The president's opinion doesn't freaking matter. Number one, it's a states' rights issue. Number two, the Supreme Court already approved of Roe versus Wade. So there's not going to be a president that goes in and reverses Roe v. Wade. So who cares? Let's talk about, and the thing is, this is getting brought up as a talking point for this election, and it really shouldn't be, because it doesn't matter. It's the same
every time.
Everybody got all excited because Obama was, he's pro-gay gay marriage or whatever. And once again, who gives a damn? Because he can't do a damn thing about it. In order for that to happen, it's a states' rights issue. No matter how much he'd want to change it, because he was against gay marriage before he was for it. And what everybody thinks is, well, just because the president's behind it, that's going to make something happen.
Well, I think you turn it around on them. I mean, they've already made it a talking point. There's no way that we avoid talking about it. It's not going to happen.
No,
you use Obama's support for partial birth abortion and for killing the baby even though it survives a botched abortion And you bring that up and you talk about that, and I'd use pictures. I mean, you want to talk about this issue, we'll talk about it. It's not pro-choice, it's pro-murder.
Yeah, but my point is, Hutch, the president can't affect that one way or another.
He can get it talked about, though.
He can get it talked about, but
and he can unfund Planned Parenthood.
He can't undo it.
Congress
still has to do it. So, and once again, it's a states' rights issue, because if the state decides, okay, the state of Pennsylvania decides we're not going to fund Planned Parenthood, Corbett doesn't sign the check. It's at
right,
but
but there's
states' rights.
Yeah,
issue.
but there's also federal money that goes to him. A lot of it.
Oh, absolutely. But the president doesn't control the purse strings.
No,
Even though this president seems to think he does, Congress controls the purse strings.
But a strong leadership role by the president could guide the Congress where he wants them to go. That's something that you didn't see in this administration.
No.
This president detached himself from Congress, made Congress virtually irrelevant, and went on by...
He detached himself from Congress when he had Congress in his party.
Right.
He was they were the majority in the Senate and the House and the presidency. He had the trifecta.
I don't even think he's had a cabinet meeting.
The hell he wanted to.
I don't even think he's had a cabinet meeting. I mean, this is bizarre. We are in bizarre territory. You know, up until the Aikens remark, the president hasn't talked to the White House press corps in 8 weeks, 9 weeks now. It was 8 weeks on the last show.
And he didn't take any questions even when he addressed
He
them.
just made a political statement. That's all he did.
He made a political statement from the podium at the White House as part of his political campaign. That's illegal.
It's unbelievable. I mean, the mess that's going to have to be cleaned up
And
by the
nobody's
next
calling him
attorney
on this
general.
shit. That's the thing that kills me, is nobody calls him on this.
No.
Nobody says, hey, you're not, it's illegal for you to make...
And Ward, this is one of the reasons that gets me so pissed off about Aiken. Everybody comes out and piles on, but they won't engage the 50-meter target that's right in front of them. They won't say a damn word about that state school czar. They should be saying stuff about him every day. I read about him 3 years ago, and no one's ever said anything since.
We talked about him on the show.
I'm sure we did.
When it was announced, yeah.
I'm sure we did. Before we go too far off kilter here, you uncovered a situation that might be a little bit telling toward the motivation behind Obamacare that's pretty unsettling.
Yeah, there was a book that was set for publication on Tuesday. Politics and governments professor at the Citadel claims that President Obama's 2009 health care reform law was, in part, a union-driven effort to organize 21 million health care workers. In Shadow Bosses, which is the name of the book, Shadow Bosses, Government Unions Control America and Rob Taxpayers Blind, Mallory Factor describes in December 9th, 2008 memo from the Service Employees International Union, SEIU.
Big Purple.
We've talked about them many times. Healthcare President Dennis Rivera to the Obama-Biden transition team. That memo outlined a legislative proposal calling for increasing the capacity of the healthcare workforce as part of a larger healthcare reform initiative. The SEIU and Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Factor writes, later coordinated with other private sector unions to spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars promoting Obamacare. The Daily Caller requested comments for this article from SEIU and AFSCME and White House spokesman, and none of them responded. A booklet published by SEIU during the 2008 election season was called for Building a New American Healthcare System, in part by organizing workers. The publication argued for outcomes nearly identical to those later adopted in the Obamacare administration. Now, let's get off of this story for a second. Let's put our thinking caps on and remember. Remember in the first 3 months who was the most the biggest visitor to the White House during the first 3 months of President Obama's administration?
It was either Andy Stern or Richard Trumka.
It was Andy Stern.
Workers of the world unite. It's not just a saying anymore.
Exactly. Now, folks, Look, we're going to play another little. I'm testing Hutch's memory here. Now, SEIU, who he is the president of, how much money did they pump into Obama's campaign?
Oh, millions. I don't know how many, but millions.
Exactly.
Well, that's his foot soldiers. In every single protest, who do you think set up Occupy Wall Street? Just a
SEIU
bunch of
definitely had
directionless kids? No.
No, the kids were the useful idiots.
Every protest you see, every left-wing protest you see, there are paid people from those unions at those protests.
Oh, yeah.
They're the same. It doesn't matter what city they're in. They're the same ones.
And that was what was beautiful about Scott Walker's win in
that
the
was
recall
excellent.
election, because the unions pumped millions of dollars into Wisconsin to defeat Scott.
And I'll tell you what,
and he still won.
There was times during that episode that I didn't know if we were going to win or not. I mean, I don't know how you felt about it, but there was some times there when we finally pulled that off. And I say we because, like thinking people, that was just so good. That gives you so much hope when that happened, because they gave both barrels. Everything they had went into Wisconsin. They voted people in from neighboring states to go vote.
Yeah.
And they say there's not a voter fraud problem. Have you heard that argument from the left? I mean, even locally here. There hasn't been one single prosecution. No shit. When you have Eric Holder up there and he's delivered the videotape, of the guy with the nightstick, King Shabazz Mashmil Basil. I don't know what his name is.
Yeah, Shamalama Ding Dong.
Yeah.
He's all for killing everybody, and
he's
a real nice guy, and and he makes terroristic threats.
Unbelievable.
And we had a link to them on our I know I seen it on Facebook. Did you put that on
probably
the Steel City Resistance page too?
I think so.
But there's some audio of this guy, and he's making terroristic threats, and yet
talking about killing babies, man. I mean, for Christ's sake.
But where's the FBI at?
I know. I was talking to Josh about that today.
That is definitely terroristic threats, and the FBI is nowhere to be found. Eric Holder's, I think he's, somewhere sweating his balls off because he's worried about Fast and Furious and going to prison. Because as soon as, come November...
As soon as Attorney General Darrell Issa gets him.
Yeah, because I really foresee, I've looked into my crystal ball, and come November when Obama loses and he's... a lame duck president, I think if Mitt Romney wants to really get the ball rolling during the first debate, say, you know what, Mr. President, as soon as I'm elected, I'm going to bring up
his
the
debate
world's
performance,
greatest investigation on everything that you've done,
Yeah,
every rule. I mean, I'm going to unload on you I'm going to come down upon you with the fury of God.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I saw an interview today with Mitt and Ann Romney by what's his name, Chris Wallace, and I know that I was very, I wasn't on the boat. It took me a long time to get on the Mitt Romney Express. It really did. But I'll tell you, he went through a debate. If you get it, or not a debate, an interview. It's on YouTube, I think, or it's on the Right Scoop. Go check it out. It's out there. But it's a regular guy, man. I mean, this guy, I was listening to him answer, and I remember back on all the other, similar interviews with other people, and this dude does his own laundry, man. He's a multi-millionaire and cooks breakfast for the family. I mean...
Well, that's the thing. That's what scares the hell out of Obama, because Mitt Romney is squeaky clean.
Yeah.
He doesn't have anything,
He never smoked a cigarette, man.
He doesn't beat his wife. He's never been divorced.
Goes to the grocery store.
Never cheated. He has no dirt. That's why they were hoping that he would pick as his running mate somebody who they could attack.
He's on this interview and he's wearing a shirt from Costco.
Well, what I want to see him do is start going after, because they're going to have to go after Ryan, because, like I said, Romney's clean.
Another squeaky clean guy.
Yeah, and Ryan's squeaky clean. But then they're going to, try and tie him, say, okay, and I'm making this up, so nobody, write in and say that this is untrue because this is something I'm making up. when Paul Ryan was in college, he drank too much beer and he was an alcoholic, and he got a DUI and all this other stuff. And look at who the president's associating with.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about guilt by association, Barack.
Yeah, let's do
because
that.
we can unload on you for days.
And I think it's the next president's duty to make sure that everybody is held accountable for this communist shit that's going on. I really do.
Well, I want Mitt Romney's first official act, when he's sworn in, as soon as his hand goes down, I want him to turn and say, start investigating Holder.
Yeah, Darrell Issa is the new attorney general. I mean, I can.
Or whoever they make the attorney general.
It's got to be somebody tough.
Yeah.
And he already has all the facts.
You know who I'd love to? Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Yeah.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio is now the
That'd be
there
good.
you go. Now get around that one.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. If Biden were Republican, Meet the Press's topic would be how stupid is this person? That's Peggy Noonan. Following in former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani's footsteps, the Wall Street Journal's Peggy Noonan on Sunday made a strong comment about the media's handling of Vice President Joe Biden's recent miscues. Appearing on NBC's Meet the Press, Noonan said if it had been a Republican vice presidential candidate who had made those gaffes, the subject today of the panel would be how stupid is this person? Can this person possibly govern? David Gregory, the host, said, Peggy, what did you make of this whole episode this week? Oh, well, I thought everything Rudy Giuliani said was true. If it had been a Republican vice presidential candidate who had made those gaffes, one after another so comically, and all on tape, the subject today of the panel would be how stupid is this person? Can he possibly govern? Giuliani had a jewel. He said on tape moments earlier, I truly believe if that were a Republican, if Sarah Palin made that level of mistakes, Dick Cheney, he'd be plastered all over the media. The New York Times would go nuts. The press should be so proud of themselves. He also said that he just thinks that, he said Joe Biden's really not that sharp. He's just really not that smart. He's pretty dumb, I mean, he was pretty blatant about it. It was pretty interesting. It was. I don't know if you got a chance to see that.
There's no doubt in my mind that Biden's a complete idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, and based on the comments he made, and I think that the deadline is passed because there was only so many X number of days.
Oh, they're going with Joe. They're definitely going with Joe. They're afraid of Hillary. And if Hillary had an ounce of brain, she'd distance herself. This ticket's going down in flames.
Well, with Hillary's connection, she could be the president, come January. But never mind. I didn't say that out loud. Sorry about that. I just had a mental thing.
She's just as bad as Obama.
Oh, absolutely. And she admits that she's a left-wing progressive.
She says, I'm a turn-of-the-century progressive in that mold, and that's Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
That's segregation.
He was bad on every level. And anybody, that's the thing that gets me is how can any right-thinking person be a Democrat?
It is unbelievable.
You
could see how, like, the older generation, like a little bit older than even us, but to be an adult now and it's your civic duty to be involved in politics. If you're sitting there, you're not paying attention to politics, and goddamn it, don't vote.
Well, here's the thing. I think that it's a case where my parents and my parents' parents and their parents' parents.
Same with me.
They may have been Democrats because that was the blue collar thing. That was the thing to do. However, in this day and age, if you went to them and said, okay, do you believe in abortion? They'd say no. Well, how come your party does? Do you believe in gay marriage? Well, no. How come your party does? Do you believe in, and just go down the list, because especially around Pittsburgh, a lot of these, old school Democrats are also Catholic. So you could say to them, how can you vote for a guy who believes in third term abortions?
Yeah.
As a Catholic in the city, as a Catholic Democrat or whatever, how can you back a guy who is for killing a baby in the third trimester? How can you do that?
Yeah, it's something else. And I mean,
there's
especially
no way to
lately,
justify.
Especially lately, even if you take the abortion off the table, just the things that have happened, the left-wing things that have happened, just in a short 3 years. I mean, the debt, the auto industry, the banks, I mean, it's all now, ladies and gentlemen, it's becoming apparent to me that we're not going to get to most of these stories. So I just want to make sure that you're aware. You can get each one of our stories that we plan to cover, and I'll tell you what the stories are, on our show notes page on the website. Little tab, show notes links page, because we have a bunch of stories, and I'm going to have to try to cherry pick them here. We got U.S. should hand over footage of drones. Let me know if there's one you want to intensely cover. We do have some time, Ward.
All right.
U.S. should hand over footage of drone strikes or face UN inquiry. Former Navy.
I just want to comment on that real quick. Fuck the UN. Go ahead.
That doesn't need any further. I'd like to see him close it. There's no reason why we're in that organization.
How the fuck does the UN call us to task on a goddamn thing?
Right. I think we should sell the building.
We're the teeth of the UN. Fuck them.
Yeah. And all it is anti-American garbage anyway. I mean, when Ahmadinejad and Hugo Chavez, I don't know if Ahmadinejad was there, but if Hugo Chavez, the things he said about George Bush, about our president in our country, can you imagine what would happen if an American leader went to Venezuela and said that shit about Chavez? They'd have carted him out in handcuffs. He'd have never came home. But former Navy SEAL reacts after Media Matters staffer calls the group gutless. Now, that was about a dumbass thing to do.
I want to jump in on that.
Go ahead.
Here's what I want. I want the jackass from Media Matters to get in a room with any Navy SEAL. I don't care who it is. Get in a room with any Navy SEAL and look him in the eye and call him fucking gutless, and he will make your day very, very bad very, very quickly. And that's what the fuck needs to happen. These people don't have the balls to come out and do what these guys do on a daily basis, that they do for a living, that they do to protect our country. And to call them gutless is beyond contempt. And I'll tell you what, put me in a room with this fuck nut and I'll destroy him.
Well, now that we've earned our explicit tag for the week, I'm going to try to get through this a little bit here. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but you can go on the show notes page. It's Rise of the Manifestoists, the endpoint of the Democrat Party. And I totally believe this. Peggy Noonan again made the show. Has a Wall Street article entitled A Nation That Believes Nothing. Her points are well taken. Noonan argues that today's Democrats say any false, listen to this is true. Democrats say any false thing that gets them elected, and establishment Republicans are slow to call the Democrats on their dishonest assault on the Constitution. The result is that neither side enunciates a coherent political position, and certainly not a position based on constitutional principles. No one believes either of the mainstream political parties, and the approval rating for Congress is in the 10% range. This results in a long period of compromise between dedicated leftists and moderate Republicans. Hear, hear. And consequently, the polity has moved steadily leftward. The national debt has gone from essentially zero to over $15 trillion in just 30 years. And we have absolutely nothing to show for it but indebtedness that will fall on future generations. Democrats like to blame the effects of their own policies on Republicans, but that exposes both Democrats' dishonesty and their profound ignorance of cause and effect. Unless, of course, Democrats are deliberately trying to destroy the Republic, which is exactly what Marxists have done in so many former states. But everyone believes in something. There's a long history of political shifts in the USA: Federalists, Whigs, Know-Nothings, Dixiecrats. The two extremes in American political thought today are the constitutionalists on the right, represented by the Tea Party, and the manifestoists on the left, epitomized by the elite followers of President Obama. The last of the old establishment Republicans are going away. After repeated failures to defend American values, Bush 1, Dole, Bush 2, McCain, the very last of the old Democrats is Joe Lieberman, now an independent who is retiring. The Tea Party is a recent development that is much closer to Thomas Jefferson than to the various establishment Republicans who have dominated the Republican debate before and since Ronald Reagan, and we got to get them out of there. Obama and Romney Ryan are neck and neck. Democrat supporters identify with Obama, and Tea Party supporters identify with the Constitution. Note how slowly the Tea Party embraced Romney and how quickly the Tea Party stood tall when Ryan joined the ticket. Economic communism has been an unmitigated disaster everywhere it has been tried. Antonio Gramsci proposed a cultural communism about 80 years ago. If you are not familiar with Comrade Gramsci, he proposed to take over cultural institutions, media, academia, political parties, churches, by infiltration in order to further the goals of a Marxist utopia. Gramsci's plan has worked quite well here in the USA, insofar as takeover is concerned, but not so well in the sure feat of failures of the Obama administration. You ever notice how journalists always try to throw those words out there that nobody ever uses? Anyway, check that out. There's
usually they throw them out so that I have to try and stumble over them.
yeah, we've had many instances on that. Oh, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just figure this out. Any actual political performance is targeted toward maintaining control. Votes have to be purchased, and powerful supporters have to be paid off with taxpayers' money, of course. My thesis is that all dictators and dictator wannabes are psychopaths, requiring power in order to conceal their own inadequacies from themselves. When grandma no longer serves a dictator's needs, she goes under the bus, joining a long line of 5 million kulaks under Lenin, more millions of Communist Party apparatchiks, and great chunks of the Soviet military officer corps under Stalin, 30 million peasant farmers starved to death under Mao, millions dead in North Korea, and 1/3 of the Cambodian population dead under Pol Pot. Favored groups become quite expendable when the psychopathic leader's control is threatened. Obama's announced intentions to change the Constitution, control guns, and start a federal government-run domestic police force, coupled as it all is with new advances in surveillance capabilities and the Gramscian media's relentless bias against the Constitution, bluntly put, this deadly cocktail presents a pointed risk to your freedoms. James G. Long has been an Army captain, a professional engineer, an author, and a blogger with a lifelong interest in organizational management problems. So that was, you can go read the entire article at the show notes links page, but that's unfortunately where we are right now.
Yeah, it sucks. But, you know, I see it turning around. I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and you know, I actually hope that, you know, everybody thought that after the last election that the Tea Party was going to die. And the Tea Party's gotten stronger and stronger. And the last election, you know, where they took over the House, the next one's going to be they're going to take over the Senate. And, you know, the Pelosi's are going to be an extreme minority, because their districts are going to continue to vote them in because that's what they're sheep out in California and they don't know better. And
look at California. Look how they're doing. I mean, that's the thing. It's so evident.
They're in fantastic shape.
So evident everywhere you look. I mean, any city that leftists are in charge are disaster areas, especially for the poor and minorities. Now, there is hope. I went today, actually, Ward, to see the movie 2012 by Dinesh D'Souza. And I went with Joshua Wander. I didn't go with him, but we both went.
I thought it was 2016.
It is. I stand corrected.
We called it 2012.
2016.
No problem. I just want to put that out there so that anybody listening wants to go see it. The movie's called 2016.
And there's the poster for the movie. But Joshua Wander and I both went, and my neighbor went. And Josh did a good deal at the end of the movie. He stood out in front of the movie theater as people were leaving, and he filmed their reactions to the show. And you can get that on the website. It's the post right prior to the show, I believe. But you can see Joshua's interviews with 4 or 5 people, and one of them was very interesting. One of them was a former Soviet Union citizen that had emigrated to the United States. So that was very.
Yeah, I did watch. I watched Josh's video because it's on our Facebook page also, and I agree with you totally that the Russian guy was one of the ones that made me go, wow.
Didn't he look like a hardcore guy?
Oh yeah, he
looked
like
tough.
KGB, you know.
He looked tough, man. He really did. But I went to this, and it was kind of, it wasn't fair. It really wasn't even fair. But Josh and I are at the ticket counter, and there's a teenage girl selling tickets. She might have been 20. And she said, "Is this an anti-Obama movie?" And we just gave her both barrels. It wasn't even fair. We, no, it's the truth. I mean, it was a very well-researched piece, and basically what it did was Dinesh D'Souza put out the idea and proved it with his work that Obama's intentions come from his anti-colonialism. From his family was caught up in Kenya when they were under colonial rule by Britain, and it just shows some of his actions, some of the things that the president's doing aren't necessarily like Marxist, although they are. I mean, it still has that little whiff, but his motivation, D'Souza makes a very good case for anti-colonialism. Even in his own words. I mean, it's stunning. It's I think personally, I thought the movie could have gone into some greater detail. He did mention Frank Marshall Davis. It was making me nod out a couple times, I have to admit, but it was like a 2-hour-long documentary. But it was very eye-opening, and I would suggest anybody that is on the fence, or every Democrat should be forced to watch this damn thing. I mean, it's just that. You're really going to vote for this? I mean, look, it's him talking,
And just so we clarify this, the name of the movie is 2016. It opened at number 3 in the country.
Yeah.
Now, and that's in limited viewing. I mean,
a third of the movie theaters that a normal movie gets released in.
Yeah, and so there's a ton of people flocking to us, and I think part of it comes from the fact that nobody knows who this guy is.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Now, there was I went to down at the waterfront, one of the I don't go to movies. I've been to 2 movies in the last 3 years, and one was Act of Valor, and one was this one. But it's one of those movie theaters that has numerous movie theaters inside it. And the girl told us that there's about 35 people. We went Sunday morning at 11:15. Because I knew there wasn't going to be that many people there. And there was like 40 people at the movie and nobody at any other movie. She said this is the only movie that anybody's going to. Nobody's going to anything else. So that was
that's impressive.
Lifted the spirits, yeah. And it only made Lowe's. It only made the theater that it got in initially. It was only going to it was going to open on Friday night at one that's like 20 miles outside the city, at Pittsburgh Mills. It wasn't even in the city. It's in Tarentum. And I don't know if they got intelligence from other theaters. I'm sure that's what happened. They got intelligence from other theaters and said, no, we got to open some more theaters. This thing's rocking. Because I read a thing by Thomas Sowell. He had to drive. He lives somewhere in California, a real liberal place. And he had to drive like 30 miles to go see it. But he said the theater he went to, he had to sit on the stairs going up to the balcony because every seat was taken in the whole place. But they were still selling tickets if you were willing to sit on the stairs. And I guess the stairs were packed. He said nobody was eating popcorn, and neither at this showing either. And at the end of it, it was the same thing that happened at Act of Valor. I've only seen this twice. People started applauding at the end. And a couple guys screamed out, "Take back our country," or whatever, they were saying. And it was impressive. It really was, man. I mean, he did a lot of work. He went to Africa and talked to George Obama, his brother. And
yeah, in fact, he was the guy that paid his doctor bills.
Yes, he did. He did do that. And I mean, George Obama doesn't have the anti-colonialist outlook that these guys do, and so I guess he's kind of excommunicated or whatever. There was an unfortunate thing. His aunt or his grandmother or something was doing the interview, and then I don't know if they contacted her from Washington or what happened, but all of a sudden it got all hostile, and the security detail told Dinesh and his guys, "We got to get out of here, man." He said, "I can't protect you here. We got to go." So somebody got to her and told, because she was going to, they were all smiles and they were going to talk, and all of a sudden, man, it got shut down, and he never did find out why, I don't think. But it's a good movie, and I would definitely, I knew about the anti-colonialist mindset, and I knew about his father and his grandfather having problems with the British, but I never saw it put together where direct actions that he's taking are related to that mindset, and he explains that a little bit, some of the different things. And it's a good watch. I mean, it's something that's educational and shows it intertwines. Dinesh D'Souza came from India, and his life and Obama's life are almost parallel. I mean, they graduated the same year, born the same year, both went to Ivy League schools, but just one went right and one went left, and it's very interesting.
So we highly recommend that our viewers all go check that out, especially if you're on the fence and you don't know who you should vote for.
At least learn what the guy's background is, at least. I mean, you owe me that. You owe other people in the country that are going to be affected by your vote, at least to be informed. And that's all.
You got to do the last story, Hutch, because I know that deep down in your heart, you're a big fan of CARE.
Yeah, well, can you hear all the squealing coming from CARE as they demand the Republican Party reject a newly adopted platform that includes a section supporting a ban on Sharia law? Kiss my ass. Kiss my ass. So that's not going to happen. They did it already. They're showing some balls. They are. To put that on the platform, that's balls. Now they ought to go back up Michelle Bachmann.
Yeah.
And let's find out what the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood is on the government. How can you be against that unless you're getting paid?
Exactly.
How could John McCain come out like that and Boehner? We need to reevaluate our leadership too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, you have to be, what have you done for me lately? You can't be, 20 years ago, John McCain was a war hero,
Absolutely.
Or 30 years ago,
40.
whatever. He was a war hero. He was a prisoner of war for a long time.
Got caught.
God bless him for his service. However, I think that he has a problem with people in authority. And I think that a lot of that comes from his time in the prison camp.
Probably does.
And he does not become aggressive. So I think that, with these people,
unless it's against Republicans.
Yeah, because the Democrats yell at him and he follows orders. He's a good little soldier. So in that case, I
can't get over it. It seems to me, if we're speaking of McCain, one of the things about McCain to me, I don't think there's ever been a country he didn't want to bomb. We need to regroup and take a break here. We've been at it for a long time. We don't need to, every time we turn around, to re-engage our military again. I mean,
yeah, he wanted to engage Syria,
And I mean, we do have to pay attention to the
absolutely, but
chemical weapons.
We don't need to be supplying the militia because it's going to be the same shit that happened in Iraq.
Oh yeah.
We basically gave Saddam Hussein enough materials to be the third largest army in the world, and we gave him all that stuff because he was in a war with Iran and we didn't like Iran, so it made sense we're going to fund him. And then come fast forward 10, 20 years, then we're having to invade and we're coming up against our own landmines. We're coming up against our own tanks. We're coming up against our own, et cetera, et cetera.
I saw a thing in Egypt tonight that showed an M1A1 tank in Egypt, and it's like, we gave them those? Really?
Yeah, we gave them the shell. We didn't give them
the shell was.
Yeah, the shell's bad, but we didn't. but we didn't give them all the guidance systems and whatnot.
I'm sure.
I mean, and
actually, though, Egypt's military is pretty well knit with the U.S. military. I mean,
yeah, but
we've been working with them for a long time. We have I'm not going to go no further than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for letting us into your life for an hour. We appreciate it. Show 85, Word Man. That's a lot of shows. Tell you
yes,
what.
it is.
How can the folks get in touch with us?
They can get in touch with us by shooting us an email at SCRPGH. Is that no
SCRTV?
Yeah, it's SCRTV@live.com. You can hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/Steel City Resistance. You can always find us on the website, steelcityresistance.wordpress.com. Just leave a comment on this episode or any previous episodes. We do check all that stuff. We do answer all the mails that we get, all the stuff that we any kind of communication that comes into us makes it to the show. we are an equal opportunity discusser. We'll discuss it, whether we think you're right, wrong, good, bad, or indifferent. We will talk about it.
Now, if you like the stories on the show, the Facebook page is 24/7 Steel City Resistance type articles and different videos and things like that. So go over there and like us. We've got enough to get our custom URL, so that makes it easier. And again, just thanks for letting us into your life for a week. And if you don't have anything else, Ward?
No, sir. I'm over and out.
We will talk to you next week.